Alright, guys, we're back again. I don't even know. I feel like this is something that is just like, it honestly pains me to talk about, but I also feel like I'm comfortable saying it just because it's like if I don't hear enough people bring up, I guess, this perspective, but I feel like it's really sad. It's really sad to me how many women have been so manipulated and programmed into believing they need abortion, that it's their right and that it's their choice. Because at the end of the day, women are literally fighting for the right to kill their own children in their womb. That's what you're fighting for. And you've been manipulated into believing it's healthcare and into believing it's your body and your choice and all of these slogans, that are used. It's like you're being programmed. And the thing is, I don't say this like because I hate people who are pro-choice or because I like dislike people who have abortion. It's just like I see it from like a completely different level. There was a point in time where I maybe would have considered myself pro-choice, but I can't do that anymore because it's just we're fighting for something that's evil. We're fighting for something that's inhumane. You're fighting for something that is an abomination that goes against the nature of a woman's body. As a woman, we literally have a uterus for the sole purpose of carrying, protecting life. Like, that is the only purpose of your uterus. Like, women literally have a uterus for the sole purpose is to hold and carry a life. That's the only purpose of your uterus. By the way, I don't know if you know that. Like, it is one of the most uniquely feminine aspects of a female body. Um and it's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful blessing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, pregnancy is hard, it's a but it's also the most like beautiful thing that a woman's body can do. Every person is not going to give birth, right? Some women do face infertility and struggle with, you know, some things. And it's just like people take for granted the blessing of pregnancy, of being able to have a child and fight for the right to kill children in the womb. And I guess maybe people don't think they're fighting for it, but they're just, I'm okay with it, because I really think when it comes down to it, people are okay with abortion because of the benefit it has. And this is another perspective I'm going to bring up because we don't praise men who abandon their children after they're born, but for some reason, women are praised for having abortions. Women are praised for literally killing their own children in their womb because they don't want the responsibility of that child. So why do we say it's okay for women to just kill their own children, but it's not okay for men to abandon the responsibility of caring for their child? But women can abandon their responsibility of caring for their child via an abortion. Now, to be quite clear, I'm not talking about unviable pregnancies. I'm not talking about miscarriages. I'm not talking about women who were essayed either. I feel like those are the very few circumstances where most people can say, hey, abortion should be legal for solely those very extreme circumstances that I wouldn't wish for any woman to experience. I feel like people are so used to using those manipulative arguments because they provoke an emotional response from people, so they can pretend like, oh, we need abortion for those reasons, but the majority of people or of women getting abortions are not because they were raped, are not because they have unviable pregnancies, and it's not because their lives are at risk. So we use these very like small percentages of abortions to try to justify the other 90% where those weren't even circumstances for those women. I think it's just really, like I said, it's a very ugly, disheartening industry that I really believe is just very evil. And, I feel like I've been unprogrammed from believing abortion is something I should fight for and that it's justified and that it's okay. I like I cannot tolerate the lies and the propaganda because I know the truth. I know the truth about abortion. I'm not sugarcoating, I'm not pretending, I'm not devaluing the lives of unborn children and saying their lives don't matter because they haven't been born yet. And it's like, it's so sick to me how we've normalized something so evil and people are so casually supporting it. But again, I feel like the people who support it is because they are either blind to the truth, ignoring the truth, or they've been manipulated like every other woman has been into believing abortion's the only choice or the best choice or a good choice, even a choice women should have. It's just like I've said before, another perspective that you can look at it. Why do women get this special privilege of being able to kill their own children in their womb because they can't afford to care for that child, or because they don't want to be pregnant, or because they don't have money or whatever? It's like the option to kill your child for those reasons is okay, but we call men who abandon their children deadbeat fathers and don't respect them and don't treat them like they've done something amazing by being selfish and choosing to walk away from the responsibility of caring for that child. It's like you don't have I'm saying this in this way for a reason, because it's a privilege, right? It's a privilege to be able to be pregnant, right? It's a privilege because people face infertility, right? There's people who want kids and can't have them. So if you're someone who has the ability to have children, that is a blessing. Whether you believe it is or not, it is a blessing. It's a blessing that you can, either be grateful for or reject, but it's a blessing. The Bible says it is a blessing to have a child. If you read the Bible, and I guess I am always speaking my stance on this is also from a Christian perspective, which I know there's some Christians who support abortion, um which I don't agree with, but I'm just going to say that the reason people want to support abortion is because, like I said, people are blinded to the truth, ignoring the truth, or manipulated by the lies surrounding abortion, because the abortion industry has to manipulate a lot of things for people to for women to be okay with killing their own children in the womb, because that's what abortion is. Abortion is killing women electing to kill their own children in their womb. Not a miscarriage, not a ectopic pregnancy that's not viable. It's choosing to end an innocent human being. The innocent human being in question being your own child, being your own flesh and blood. That child is a piece of you, it's a part of you. When people have children, that children is both the mother and the father's, you know responsibility. The thing is, we don't celebrate abortion either. It's like people are fighting for abortion as if abortion is this great thing, this great experience for women, and it's not. It leaves women with lifelong trauma. The amount of people I've seen who regret their abortion, it's sad. I know a lot of women who turn to drugs and alcohol after having abortions, who are very depressed, and they're not okay after. I mean, I can say, like, that's not going to apply to every woman, you know, but there's a lot of women who do suffer mentally after having abortions, because how can you can't erase that. It's like you can lie and believe the manipulations. You can tell yourself your own child is just a clump of cells, that it doesn't matter, but that's not the reality. Their lives do matter, because your life matters. Your life mattered when you were in your mother's womb. Your mother didn't kill you. Your mother gave birth to you, and that's why you're here. That's why you're alive. That's why you're able to speak and stand up for yourself and say what you deserve, right? But to believe you're more deserving of life simply because you were born without your mother killing you, it's like those things are not equated to me, because it's like your right to life, you didn't have more of a right to life than a baby that was aborted. You know, you just didn't exist in a womb where you were unwanted or unvalued or devalued even. And it's like, when you really think about it, abortion is not fair. It's really not fair. It's a very unjust system that has been used for eugenics purposes. You know, if a child has Down syndrome or some other maybe disease, you know, some doctors will recommend that you kill that child, that you have an abortion, you know, not because the child's life doesn't hold value, but because you're saying, oh, well, they have Down syndrome and we don't want more people with Down syndrome, so we can just abort this child. You know, there's a lot of very evil, unjust reasons that children are being aborted. And I guess, the biggest argument that I've heard is just, you know, it doesn't affect you, so you don't have to care. You know, and that's not a great argument. Like, I understand the logic. Well, it doesn't personally affect you, so it doesn't matter. But I'm not going to stand by, um it's like I can't tolerate something I know is evil, right? Like, you can say, well, someone else abusing their children doesn't affect you. You know, and this is the another analogy I thought of the other day. You know, if I see um someone being mugged on the side of the street, and this person is literally, like, let's say I see another a person, a crime in is taking place. You know, someone is about to, um is committing a crime against another person, a violent crime, um and I see it, and I'm just like, doesn't affect me, so I'll just walk away. I'm still gonna be fine, even if that person is being harmed and has some is having something horrible being done to them. It doesn't affect me, so I don't have to care, and I don't have to worry about it. And I basically just say I can ignore something evil or harmful happening to another human being, because it doesn't personally affect me. You can say that's a great argument. You can use that as an argument, but all it does is promote selfishness, to tell people, well, you don't have to care. What I do with my child, what I do with my body doesn't affect you. And it's like, yes, it doesn't affect me, but that doesn't mean I'm going to support something I know is harming another person. And the person that's being harmed is your own child. You know, like, you devalue your own child in the womb. I shouldn't even say, it's a mixture of two things. It's devaluing your own child's life, while also, um while also prioritizing yourself and the situation. Another part or aspect of it I always think about is, you know, when people speak about abortion as like a means of preventing abuse of children in foster care, when in reality it's just like, ending someone's life to prevent them from being abused is not really how you stop abuse. You know, it's like if I kill someone before they're born to prevent them from being born and experiencing abuse in life, did you do that person a favor by ending their life, by not giving them any choice? Because, you know, people have survived horrendous forms of abuse and they still value their lives, you know. It's like you still took away that person's choice of whether or not they would have said, well, my life is still worth it even if I had to did experience abuse at some point in my life. The other part of it is like every you really can't determine what someone else's future is. You know, I've experienced suffering. Maybe it wasn't, you know, violent suffering or abusive suffering. People can be born into loving families and still have experience abuse in their life. You know, people who are victims of SA have experienced abuse, right? People can get into a relationship and experience domestic violence. You know, foster care is not the only form of abuse that exists, but we're saying one specific type of abuse means we're allowed to abort someone's life. I mean, like I said, I don't think any argument that for abortion is a great argument, but I also think there's so much there's a lot of flaws in it, but at every point to support abortion, you have to devalue the life that is being aborted. You're saying the life of that child is not they're not worthy of life. They're not as deserving of life. It's okay that we end their life. And if you look up how abortion works, and these abortion procedures are very barbaric. Um you know, ripping a baby apart limb from limb, suffocating the baby in the womb, stabbing it in the heart to give it a heart attack. It's very disturbing to see how abortions are done, and you can't look at abortion and not and really think to yourself, this isn't murder, because an abortion is actively trying to kill the baby. Like, that's the whole point of an abortion. You are purposely trying to kill the child and that child's life. And there's just so many risks. Like I said, people are blinded to the truth of abortion because of how manipulative the abortion industry is, and they want you to think, you know, this is something that benefits women, but it's not benefiting women. You know, if you think women are I mean, it's like women benefit from the abortion industry the same way men benefit from abandoning their children. You know, the benefit is whatever selfish things in your life that you think are more important than caring for your child or caring about your child's life. And the reason I say that is, like, I say things like that, and it's like, maybe you can say, well, that woman might have cared about her child's life, but just didn't want to be pregnant and wasn't ready and wasn't prepared. And we still are saying, you know, it's better that that woman aborts the child than put it up for adoption, right? And it's just like, people want to paint adoption as being more evil than abortion. It's like, one is, you know, allowing someone who wants a child to care for that child, raise it, versus you saying killing a child is better than it being adopted. Like, I really just don't understand the logic or some of the morals, I would say, behind the argument. But overall, it really just saddens me that so many people can still support it, because it's just like I said, I can't see abortion as anything but evil. knowing what I know, knowing the truth, you can't see it as anything but evil. Because the truth is, abortion is women fighting to kill their own children in their womb. You're literally fighting for the right to kill your own mothers, fighting for the right to kill their own children in the womb. Mothers demanding the right to kill their own children in their womb. And you want me to say that's a good thing? No, I can't say that. I can't say that. I also think, like, if we know abortion is not a good experience for a woman to have, you know, if having an abortion leaves someone with trauma and sometimes a lifelong regret, you know, people want to say, well, it's benefiting women, it's helping women. They don't have to care for that child anymore. Or it's the benefit to the woman is not a real benefit. You know, the benefit of not having to care for a child, I don't think is more beneficial than I don't think outweighs the trauma of having to live with the abortion. I don't think the benefit of, well, at least she doesn't have to care for that baby is a better outcome than giving a child up for adoption. And honestly, before abortion, that was what was normal, you know? If a woman was pregnant in a circumstance where they didn't have the money, they couldn't afford it, you know, abortion wasn't the first choice. Abortion wasn't the option. It was just you give that child up for adoption. You know, it's kind of like we use someone's evil intentions. You know, women were dying trying to kill their children because they were so ashamed of giving birth or being pregnant at a young age, because we shamed women for being pregnant out of wedlock, right? But the desire to kill that child was the one that we highlighted over, you know, hey, we don't need to shame women for getting pregnant in, you know, not the best circumstances, but we can have a system set up where, you know, those women can be supported through birth, give that child to parents who are willing to adopt and care for that child, and that woman can continue on with their life without having to have the responsibility of caring for that child. But we highlight the, oh, well, women were didn't want to be pregnant, they were dying trying to kill their children, and that's the option we decided we need to promote more. It's kind of like crazy to me that that's what society decided. I mean, I don't think society, I really think it's like, I truly believe the abortion industry is very demonic. Margaret Sanger is an evil person, is a very evil person. She did not like black people. She was a eugenicist. She wanted to decrease the population of black people in America, and she has successfully done that. Do you know that the population of black people is declining? It's not growing because of abortion. Abortion clinics, you know, are more popular. Planned Parenthoods, they say, are mostly in impoverished areas, POC communities, black communities, majority of them. So, you know, Margaret Sanger doesn't care about black babies at all. It was founded by someone who was evil, is basically my point. And evil people don't create things that are good. It wasn't a good thing. She didn't create Planned Parenthood because she cared about women or cared about children or cared about it. She literally created it to do an evil, to get rid of undesirable people, people she deemed undesirable, which was black people. And in a lot of ways, I feel like that's far more evil than adoption. Um, the problem with foster care is people, and I feel like people find issues with the wrong things. The problem with kids being in foster care is not the kids who are in foster care, it's the adults that have failed them. The problem with kids being abused is not the kids are exist, it's the people that are abusing them shouldn't be abusing them. Too many people are faulting the child just being alive, when they should be faulting people abusing them. Abusive systems in place, systems that don't support mothers and children. We should be fighting for better health care for women, better maternal care, so that pregnancies aren't more dangerous for women. We're fighting for the wrong thing. We're fighting for death instead of fighting for life. That's the reality of abortion. Abortion is fighting for the death of children versus fighting for better lives for children. Pro life means supporting the life of that child before and after birth. Pro lifers do more to support women. During pregnancy, they do more to support women after pregnancy. They give far more resources to women and kids. Pro-lifers adopt way more. People who are pro-choice always want to bring that up. Why aren't you adopting? They are. We are. Pro-lifers adopt the most babies out of anyone. Pro-lifers foster the most kids out of anyone. We are doing more to support kids in foster care and adoption. What are pro-choicers doing to help those kids? Absolutely nothing. Y'all just use them as an excuse for why you need abortion. Anyways, that was a side note. But the honest truth about it is, like, supporting, it's like your people would rather support the death of children than the life of children. They would rather support the death of children in the womb than the life of children in the womb. And then use all of these, circumstantial things that it's outside of anyone's control. A child can't control the circumstances they're born into. That doesn't mean they're unworthy of life or they deserve to die. Like I said, I honestly just can't see the abortion industry as anything but evil. Literally turns mothers into, it pits mothers against their own children. Mothers devalue their own children. They don't care about their children in their womb. I mean, someone literally argued with me on a TikTok that a child doesn't matter. Their children's lives don't matter until they're born. Like, in what world, what pregnant woman has ever said my child, well, I mean, like I said, I guess I've only seen a pro-choice woman say this, by the way. My child's life is not important. They're not alive until they're born. I remember, like, someone went to some Planned Parenthood protest and they were pregnant, right? And she had on her belly, "not yet human," which scientifically is just not even factual. You are human at every stage of your development. A human fetus is still a human. A human zygote is still a human. Like, at every stage of your development as a human being, you're always a human being. It's just you're going through different developmental stages. Scientifically, like, just not that doesn't make sense. But anyways, I think, like I said, people get this way because they've been manipulated. Personally, that's what I believe. You've been manipulated into believing you need abortion as a woman. You've been manipulated into believing your child's life doesn't matter. You've been manipulated into believing um, it's just a clump of cells. It's not alive. They're not alive. They don't matter. My body, my choice. All of these slogans is manipulation to keep women practicing or doing something that, in my opinion, is just, it's absolutely evil. Like I said, fighting to kill your own children in the womb is not something I'm going to celebrate or support or say this is something we need to support. Because again, before abortion existed, women were just giving their children up for adoption. And you also know what? There was a lot less unwanted pregnancies before abortion because women were making better decisions. Where not most women weren't willing to risk pregnancy because they didn't have the option of abortion, which I really do think, like, most people think of abortion as birth control. You know, I can sleep around, and even if I get pregnant, I can get an abortion because I don't want pregnancy. I don't want a child. But I'm going to actively do something that creates that child, because if I do get pregnant and I don't want that child, I can just have an abortion and everything's hunky dory. And you know, it's really just promoting more selfishness, more recklessness, and more, you know, women just experiencing the trauma of an abortion, the trauma, more babies being killed, you know, in the womb. Like, why I wouldn't celebrate that or promote it. And it's like, I feel like even the most rational pro choice person would not celebrate abortion the way some people, like the more radical people, I think, pretend it's, you know, something to celebrate or be proud of. And I think, like I said, most people don't care because, again, you know, if you choose to, if you follow the belief system, it doesn't affect me, so I don't have to care. It's really just about, you know, it's just promoting selfishness. Well, someone doing what they want with their body doesn't impact me directly, so I don't care. It's not personally affecting me. That's just a selfish attitude to hold, in my opinion. You know? And then those same people will say they care about, you know, all of the harm being done in Palestine and all of these other wars all over the place and all of these other genocides happening. Like, you care about some people being abused and being killed, but not your own child's or other people's children. Or I don't again, it's really just, at the end of the day, an abortion is a mother choosing to end the life of her own child while her child is in her womb. The womb, by the way, which is only purpose is to protect and nourish the life of a child. Like, the actual purpose, the function of your uterus, the woman's body, your body was literally designed for that purpose. A woman's body is designed to care for, protect, nourish a human being, a fetus, a child, a baby. I don't care what you call it. It's literally, calling it a clump of cells is just another way to devalue it. But like, it's literally the actual purpose and function of your uterus. So having an abortion is not only, you know, I mean, it's a wickedness because it's like you're choosing to kill a innocent human being, but it actually goes against the actual nature of your own body. And when you are pregnant, your body prioritizes the life of your child as well. A woman's body has to create more blood, you know, and your body doesn't see a pregnancy as this negative thing, you know. That's your mind. It's 100% a woman's your mindset that tells you your child's life doesn't matter. Your body believes the life of your child matters. That's why it's sending all the nutrients to the baby. That's why it's the changes a woman goes through during pregnancy is because your body cares about the child. Your body cares. Your own body cares more than sometimes your mind. But your body cares and values. It sees that child as a blessing because it's the nature God created your body to nurture, to protect children. Women's bodies are literally created to nurture and protect women. You produce breast milk solely because it's nutrient for the baby, for your child. Your body literally, the nature of your body cares more about the life of your child than some women's mindsets. It's like crazy. That's why I'm saying it's like it's an abomination against the nature of a woman's body. An abortion goes against the nature of a woman's body, which without any type of output from anyone, your body is literally going to fight to protect your child's life, even if you don't. That's why I feel like it's really sad. It's really sad that we've gotten to a place where people, you know, either don't want to see it, can't see it, or like I said, just don't care enough. They don't care because, like I said, abortion benefits women the same way someone a father abandoning their child benefits them. It doesn't benefit them actually because it says more about, your lack of responsibility. It's like you're not being, it's like to say it's responsible. It's a great choice to have an abortion, is a good choice, is a okay choice for a woman to make, right? We celebrate or say that's a woman's choice, but I also think like it's hypocritical because we don't say men, abandoning their children. I also think like, and then it's like you're giving women a special privilege men don't have. Like, are men able to force, if that child is genetically both the mother and the father, we're saying fathers don't have a choice, only mothers get to choose to kill their babies, but fathers don't have the choice to kill a child. It's like, do we also support fathers having the choice to abandon their child? It's like, and fathers do have that choice, not that it's celebrated, but you can't force a father to be a father the same way you can't force a mother to be a mother, but we don't act like someone doing those things is benefiting as a benefit or as a great thing, I don't know. It's just like, I guess it's another perspective you can think about, Are we saying that a woman not getting an abortion is forcing a father who doesn't want to be a father? It's like, okay, this is the question I'm going to phrase at the end of this. So, if we are going to claim an abortion is a okay legal option for a woman who does not want the responsibility of caring for that child, and it's legally acceptable for a woman to have an abortion because they don't want the responsibility of caring for that child, why, and is it legally an option for men to say, hey, well, I don't want the responsibility of caring for that child, so are they now allowed to abandon their rights to the child? And I guess like fathers can abandon their rights, but they still have to pay child support. But it's like when dads don't want the baby, they just abandon it, and they're told they're horrible people. But when mothers don't want the baby, they can just get an abortion and no one's saying like, oh, you're getting out of your responsibility, or you're doing, it's like, I don't understand. And I'm not saying this to be like, it's just like, why do we say it's okay for women to have abortions, but men abandoning their children after birth. We don't celebrate that. We're not highlighting those men are just doing what they want with their choice. They have the choice. They don't have the choice to, they didn't have the choice to end the child's life, but it's okay for women to have that choice. And it's also okay, it's not okay for men to abandon. Or are we going to now say it's okay for men to abandon their responsibility to that a child that they don't want, because it's okay for women to abort a child they don't want? It's really just like, this is a, it's, you can't really, how do you rationalize these, what's being normalized, in my opinion? Fathers, like, we literally say men have no say in this issue because they're not the ones who get pregnant. But there's so many women who also use pregnancy and abortion to manipulate men. You know, there's women who get pregnant just to trap a man. There's women who get pregnant by someone to extort a man to pay them to get an abortion. You know, a lot of people are doing very evil things with pregnancy and with abortion because, like I said, when people don't respect the responsibility, people don't respect sex for what it is, as sex being something that is sacred, is intimate, and is literally comes with the responsibility of creating new life. You know, if you're not ready for the responsibility that sex comes with, including pregnancy, you really shouldn't be having sex. If you, and I feel like, why is that not being taught? You know, if you don't want the responsibility of being a parent, of having a child, you know, you shouldn't be choosing to participate in something that creates that. But instead, we're just teaching, oh, well, just have safe sex, get on birth control, and if that fails, get an abortion. You know, people are more willing to promote people having sex, quote unquote, safely, and creating the risk of pregnancy and all of these other things, versus just saying, you know, if you're not prepared for the responsibilities that sex has, you shouldn't participate in it altogether if you're not prepared to face the consequences. And it's like that's why I've said before, I think people are willing to risk that because they have the option of abortion, really. And then what about men who coerce a woman to get an abortion? Do you support that? Do you support men having a say? It's like, if a woman's only getting an abortion because a man pressured her to, isn't that kind of abusive? Like, she doesn't really want to, but she knows she's not going to have the support of the husband or boyfriend, or maybe the boyfriend is just pressuring her all together and saying like, oh, I don't want a child, so I need you to do this. Like, that's not a good thing either. And why I wouldn't respect a man. I also think like abortions benefit deadbeat dads more than anything. A man who doesn't want the responsibility of caring for a child pressures a woman to get an abortion because now they can have sex and don't have to deal with the baby or child support. That's not benefiting women at all. Like I said, I just think there's so many issues abortion creates for women, for children, obviously, and for men. It's not something that I think is a good thing. It's not something that I think really benefits anyone. It just benefits selfish people who don't care about their own children. It hurts and harms women who do, you know, want kids but think that they are not ready and they don't want the responsibility, or they're scared. You know, a lot of women do get abortions out of fear, I think, and the fear of I'm not ready to be a mother, the fear of giving birth, the fear of pregnancy, but then they make that decision out of fear, and then they have this lifelong trauma of having that abortion. So it's just like they're not winning regardless. Just one has a really heavy cost. I don't know. Again, I understand like all of these other there's a lot of other things I could talk about, but I think I've said enough. I feel like I've honestly feel like I've never said enough. It's just something that I feel like it really is hard for me to it's really hard for me to listen to abortion arguments that are like it's always devaluing the life of the child, and it's just like, to me it makes me sad because it shows like the hearts of so many people are just, they don't care. They don't care. um and that's what I think makes me most sad is like, whether or not you have any, I guess, opinion on the issue, I really just think like there's so much harm the abortion industry has added to the world. I mean, the first being, millions of babies being killed, and then the products, the babies are often used for research purposes. They're taking the stem cells from aborted babies and trying to turn them into products. There's some real evil stuff happening. And you know what? The truth will come to light one day. I also think that there's going to be future generations that look back on our society and talk about how evil we were to allow abortion. There's going to be future generations that look at the abortion industry like we look at the story in the Bible of Sodom and Gomorrah, of how women were sacrificing their babies to Molech, and, literally throwing them into a burning furnace, sacrificing their child's life to Molech. That's how we're going to look at abortion. As evil, as barbaric. That's how it's going to be seen in future generations. Because, again, societal norms always are going to change. Just because something's tolerated now, slavery was okay for hundreds of years until someone said, "Hey, yeah, this is wrong. We shouldn't be owning other human beings. That's not okay. We shouldn't be devaluing people. We shouldn't be judging people by the color of their skin. We shouldn't be treating people differently." Segregation and racism was okay until someone said, "Hey, actually, you're treating people less than because of the color of their skin. That's not okay. We shouldn't tolerate this." And I think maybe not 100 years from now, hopefully soon, people are going to look back at abortion and say, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't be allowing women to kill their own children in their womb." This kind of evil. I mean, it's not even kind of evil. I think it's like, I feel like it's obvious evil to those who are awake, and a manipulated, tolerable thing to people who are still, I feel like, either still, I don't even say not just being in the world but of the world. You can tolerate harm being done to other people because it's not being done to you. And maybe you can tolerate harm being done to another person, because it doesn't actually affect you. But tolerating something evil, tolerating something wrong because it's not personally affecting you, or maybe because you might potentially benefit from that thing in the future, is not really I mean, it's not really an argument of morals, more so an argument of access. Well, I might need access to abortion in the future, so I don't know. Me personally, I don't think there's any circumstance I would ever consider an abortion. I would never. And that's also why I always say, I don't consider a pregnancy that's not viable, nor do I consider a miscarriage to be like issues. Every pro life state has allowances for saving a woman's life, for pregnancies that are unviable. Like, those are not even issues that any pro life person I know has. I mean, instances of I feel like people do differ. Personally, for me, even if I was a victim, I would not seek to get an abortion, because I feel like it's understandable, and I can empathize obviously for someone who has that experiences and decides to get one. I just don't think that the abortion getting an abortion in that circumstances actually changes or helps the situation. I feel like it just adds another trauma to the trauma, because I feel like, to me, the better option is to give the child up for adoption. I feel like there's more. I mean, I'm going to say this in as respectful of a way. I feel like if it was me, I would I wouldn't choose abortion in that circumstance personally, because I feel like I I would just be making the baby another victim. Um, and that's something that I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to really discuss it too much, because again, there's people who are definitely going to say, well, I feel like that just comes down to like your personal morals at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, those are not experiences that I would wish for any woman to experience. And it's like, I'm not going to support someone having an experience that is negative. I'm not celebrating ectopic pregnancies, I'm not celebrating miscarriages, and I'm certainly not celebrating women who are victims of sexual assault. So that being said, if those are issues created by horrendous circumstances, why that I wouldn't wish on any woman, why would I say um abortion is justifiable for circumstances that shouldn't exist to begin with? You know, ectopic pregnancies are circumstances that are extremely rare. Most cases, that's not going to be a woman's experiences. Pregnancy from assault is also rare. I would say SA could be more prevalent, but most SA would not result it does not result in a pregnancy. So it's like a small percent of a small percent, and of all of the abortions, it's also a very small percent. Um and most high risk pregnancies, which this is kind of one where I'm like, I'm not sure how educated people are on it. For a later term, it's like when someone has a high risk pregnancy, you know, the safest option is actually a C-section, not an abortion. An abortion is not the safest route for a woman having a high risk pregnancy. And when it does get to a place, you have that's what healthcare is for. So I feel like that's kind of what I had mentioned in another video, because I shared the story of this woman who had a very high risk pregnancy, went to a specialist doctor. Her and baby were both able to survive, because people don't realize, like, a true, like, health care that supports life is going to fight for the life of the mother and baby, not just the life of the mother. In a like most people, the best case scenario is the mother and child lives. Fighting for, you know, one has to die for the other to live is not the scenario you should be fighting for. Better healthcare means better technology that lessens how many women having to face a death sentence from a pregnancy. Like, wouldn't you support better health care for women and children, not just, well, we just kill the baby because, it's a risk to the mother's life. We have people create these scenarios because they don't value the life of the child, or they pin the life of the child as being like, oh, well, only one can survive, and if only one can survive, that means we always choose the mother, which, I understand maybe the rationale behind that, but you can support the life of the mother and the child is the point. And what us emergency that's what most emergency the purpose of emergency c-sections is, that instead of saying let's intentionally kill the baby because the mother's life is at risk, you say let's get the baby out, the pregnancy is a risk to the woman's life, but instead of intentionally killing the child, we just remove the child from the uterus, put that child in the NICU, give the mom the health care she needs to survive, and also give the child the health care it needs to survive. Is that not a better scenario than like, oh, let's just kill the baby because it's a risk to the mother's life? I mean, again, it's not always a black and white solution. And I feel like that's what people don't understand. Like in the case of an ectopic pregnancy too, like the removal of that fallopian tube is not with the intention of killing the baby. It's literally just to save the mother's life. That's the difference between like healthcare that is to save a life versus healthcare that is promoting ending a life. Like, you're literally killing the baby unnecessarily. It's like if it's a 25-week fetus baby at that point, you don't have to kill the baby to save the mother's life. You can have a C-section to save the mother's life, get that baby out, and it's actually often the quickest, safest procedure, because an abortion after a certain stage, I feel like they said, is like takes 2 to 3 days. They have to kill the baby first, and then you still have to deliver that baby just dead versus alive. So many people are uninformed on how abortion works too, and I think that's another issue in and of itself. I'm actually pretty educated on abortion. That's why I hold the stance that I do. I know how it works. I've also listened to doctors who performed abortions. I've listened to experts who talk about that it's never actually necessary to kill the child to save a woman's life. Like, it's not necessary to end the child's life just to save the mother's. That's actually and that's like a false premise I think some people make because they've been told that lie and that manipulation, but it's actually never medically necessary to intentionally kill the child. Now, you can deliver a child prematurely and that child's not able to survive regardless of how much care it's given. And then you have this other, and this is like, again, this just goes into like the ethics, how unethical I personally believe abortion is, because there's people coming up with laws, where a woman can give birth to a child prematurely and basically like deny that baby health care. Basically, like, if the child die, like, I don't have to care about that child after it's born either, and then just deny it health care and let it die. Like, literally, it's a weird scenario. Like a failed abortion. I think that's what it was. Like a woman who had a failed abortion basically could give birth to a baby that was still alive, and the doctors could choose to like not try to save the life of the baby after it was born alive because the mother didn't want the baby to begin with. But at that point, it's like super unethical because like you're literally just, like I said, it's nothing, it's so much evil that comes out of this. So much like just when you stop valuing life and you start valuing death, this is the culture. We're creating a culture that promotes death, that glorifies death as well. And as a Christian, the Bible clearly says choose life. Choose life. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Choose life. I don't know. Like I said, it's like I don't even want to argue with people. I really don't want to argue with people out about it. I'm not trying to debate people. I'm sharing my perspective and my opinion because I can, and it's something I care about, and it's also something that I feel like is just like it really just saddened me how the state of our society is, to have a culture so that promotes the death of children in the womb more than it promotes the life of children. Okay, that's it.